Okay, in this lesson, we will learn how to read the t-distribution, or the t-table, whichever term you like to use. Now, suppose we have alpha equal to 0.05. Well, alpha levels are across the top here. These are, so you can see right here, this tells us what our alpha level is. 0.05 happens to be right here. And there's one other number we need to know is, are we doing a z-test or a t-test? So let's start first with a z-test. We're going to do a z-test, alpha level of 0.05. So z-test, what you do is this right here, this symbol right here, that symbol represents degrees of freedom. Well, you're going to have to look up degrees of freedom. Whenever you have a z-test, your degrees of freedom are infinity, which is right here at the bottom. So with alpha at 0.05 in infinite degrees of freedom, your critical value will be 1.645. Now that's one thing I need to point out. This is a vocabulary term, critical value. All these numbers inside here are critical values. These alpha levels are levels of significance. And the left-hand column here is the degrees of freedom. Or we could also put here DF for degrees of freedom. Now, let's clear this. And let's do another one. Suppose we have alpha equal to 0.025. We're doing a z-test, And that's really all we need to know, our degrees of freedom, because it's a z-test, or infinity. So we get 0.025. We go down here to degrees of freedom, infinity. That number is 1.96. Hopefully that's simple enough. When you do a z-test, you're always going to read the numbers on the bottom row. Now, let's do one more thing. Let's clear the page. Okay, now what if we're going to do a t-test? And let's let alpha equal 0.01. And this time, let's say our degrees of freedom is 8. Okay, so we find 0.01, which is right here. Degrees of freedom is 8, which is right here. And then we find the intersection, which is right here, 2.896. I think that is correct. That would be the critical value you would use for this t-test. Now, how do you find the degrees of freedom? That's probably the question you have. Let's set this up one more time. Clear the page. Okay, let's do a t-test. Alpha is 0.025. And this time we know our sample size is 21. Well, the degrees of freedom happens to be n minus 1, which is 20. Degrees of freedom for a t-test are always n minus 1. So let's see what we have here. We have 0.025 right here. That's our level of significance. Our degrees of freedom is 20, which is right here. And we go over and we find the intersection. Our critical value for this problem would be 2.086. So that's how you read this table. Now, also, what if we're doing one last problem? I'm going to clear the page and start over. So what if we had alpha equals 0.05? We're going to do a t-test. And we're going to have, let's say, 50 is our sample size. So our degrees of freedom would be 49. Notice that 49 is not on here. Actually, here is something, we will not use any of these values right here. We will not use any of those. I can go ahead and mark them all the way out if you want me to, but we will not use any of these values because what we're going to do is anytime that n is greater than 30, we're going to use degrees of freedom equal to infinity. So we'll go right down here to the bottom. alpha is 0.05, and we use 1.645. Now remember, if you're doing a t-test and n is bigger than 30, you're going to use that bottom row. You're going to use the infinity line. The degrees of freedom are infinity. The purple lines, the areas, the numbers, the critical values I've marked out will never be used. So don't even think about it. See how I'm marking them out? They will not be used. Hopefully this is enough information that you can read this table. If not, get in touch with me. Have a good day.